Okay, hey everybody, this is Grace. In this video, I'm going to start it off by saying that I am not a voice of authority on anything that has to do with law or any of that at all. So don't take this as, yeah, that's how it works. No. And if you know the truth in the United States, in Texas, maybe, wherever, yeah, just let us know. But now, I'm going to say that I'm not responsible for what any comments anybody leaves. If they're wrong, they're wrong. That's on them. Okay, so anyway, let me get to this point. Wow, yeah, and then some. But anyway, what's been on my mind is this. Years ago, okay, this is something similar. Years ago, I'm thinking it was probably 20 years ago. I worked at a place, and it was in medical billing, and I had been doing medical billing, and I have a sister who's a guru. She's a voice of authority on this kind of stuff, you know, even back then. And I worked for a place that they were telling us stuff, and I was like, no, you can't do that. No, that's wrong. You know, it was little bitty stuff, little bitty time-consuming things that, or even, you know, like you couldn't put that on a bill, or you know, if you messed up, you had to start all over, kind of thing. Something, it was something silly. I don't even remember, but not silly, but you know, something you just couldn't do it that way. You had to, you know, you couldn't correct it that way. Things like this, not just one thing, but several things. And I was one of them. You know, I just started working. I was like, no, and I thought it was really odd that the woman who was my supervisor, mine and other people, she was working in retail before then. And then they hired another woman to be her boss who didn't have but a few months, I think it was, of experience, and really was just as inexperienced, you know, or close to it. Okay. The woman that had been working in retail had only been doing this, I think, 6 months. And then she was suddenly made into our supervisor. Yeah, it was all shady to me. And I made a comment. You know, I asked my sister, and she said, no, you can't do that. You know, they could cause you all kinds of problems. And they could. She told me, explain it to me. And they could. I knew that they could. You know, she was just a voice of authority. So, yeah. And I was a career student at the time. And, well, no, that was after. Yeah, that was after I was a career student. God, I gotta look back at the time. And, so maybe it had been more than that long ago. Anyway, whatever it was. Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. So long ago. But she said, yeah, you know, don't do what they're saying, you know, and all this stuff. And then I asked in a meeting we had, and the guy said, oh, well, I told my supervisor, the new woman, and she said, the one that they both didn't know what they were talking about. She said, oh, I never heard that before. And she was a real innocent type person, you know, one that you wouldn't think she would be, you know. She just seemed so innocent and so, you know, oh, I didn't know that. Well, of course she didn't know. They hired green people to be in management, so the green people would just do whatever they were told. Okay, and I wasn't the only person. I was the only person at the time that said anything, but then later on I heard other people said that they know. And it was a revolving door kind of job. You know, people didn't last very long, and the very, very, very few who had, it was a corporation, very few who had. Yeah, they would say you're not gonna, that nobody lasts long anymore. They last like not even 3 months. You know, and I knew somebody else who did that. She'd harass people, or she'd have them harassed, so she could, they wouldn't be there past 90 days, so they didn't get their, you know, their benefits back in the day. And anyway, I mean, it was, so what they were doing, they were basically telling everybody that in order to keep your job, you have to do the things the way they say that you have to do them, not the way they're supposed to be. And also, I was in a meeting, and they told us that if anything came up, that it would be the responsibility of the corporation would take all the blame, and not the people who did it wrong. That was false. They would be, that, I was told would be false. Now, like I said, I'm not in any way, shape, form, or fashion a voice of authority on any of this. Okay. But I was told that you could lose your job and not be able to work again in that field. Well, I didn't care if I worked in that field again anyway, but just the thought of getting a, it could possibly even be jail time. Okay, falsifying all this stuff and so forth. And there's so much terminology that belonged, I don't know what it is now, if it's different now than it was then, all that. But anyway, recently, I've heard something similar. Okay, recently, so they were claiming they would take the responsibility. No, okay, it wouldn't be really wouldn't really be their choice to take all of it. From what I understood, like I said, I really don't know. Okay, it took a few minutes here. So where was I? But basically, see, all these years later, 20-something years, I'm guessing now. But all these years later, I hear something that reminds me of this. And I'm going to fictionalize it a bit. But say I have a 40-year-old adult daughter. Of course, 40 years old is an adult daughter. You know what I'm saying. But say she, she's a little flighty. She changes jobs, and she calls me and tells me her new adventure. She's very career-oriented, but she doesn't want to settle on a career. So she's doing a new one. And she says she loves it. She found this place, and I'd heard of it. It's not an old corporation. It's a rather new one in comparison to many of them. But, I've heard of it. And, it's not anywhere near here, but she's enjoying, she says she loves it, and there's great room for advancement, and so on and so forth, and that's great. Maybe she'll, make some roots and stay there. Well, I'm encouraging her. And then over time, and I'm talking about months, okay, she calls me and she tells me stuff, updates me on, what's going on this week, that week, and the other, and all that, however long it is. And some of the stuff she tells me, I'm like, oh my, I just listen at first and see how she's going to see it. And if there's a reason I'm, anytime with anybody, if I see reason to say, hey, watch it, I will. But I'm giving her, she's an adult, see what she thinks. But over time, she makes it obvious to me that she's kind of worried. And what is happening is that people that work there are starting to, she's starting to make friends, or get acquainted at least with people, more acquainted with them. And they're telling her things like, that make her suspicious. Some of them are really good, decent people, but some of them are not. They seem quite shady. And not about the business, they just seem like shady people. And then the owner tells the manager and supervisors. The manager tells the supervisors tell, tell people that they're going to have this where they start getting bonuses. If they're the more money they make for the company, the more bonuses they get and all that. Well, as it turns out, over time, over months here, the people who are shady, seem shady, just in general, they're the ones that are getting all the bonuses. The people who are the good, decent ones are not. And then there's all these rumors going around, from the good, decent ones about why. And they say that the ones that they heard that the owner has actually gone overseas, to live. And it's a place, and I screwed this word up earlier. Adam was laughing about it. But is it, extradite, he would not be extradited. Because I think I was saying something like, what's that other word that sounds similar? Oh, anyway, expedite. That's what I was saying. I was saying it wrong, whatever it was. I don't use terminology like that, so anyway, I have no reason to use those words, but and so on. It's not my thing. But anyway, so the boss, the owner, not the boss, but the owner, he's moved over there. It's just his country of origin where he was born, and all of his money's there, and he's just, telling the management what to do. And he's not worried. And there's all kind of conspiracy theories going on, about that and all that. But the whole thing is that they're telling, as it comes out, is the management is saying, we don't care how we don't care how you do your job, as long as you make as long as you make money. You make money for the corporation. That's all. Doesn't matter if you're doing something illegal or not. They're not saying that terminology. They're saying we don't care how. We don't want to hear how you're doing it, how you're making this much money. You see, you get it, right? So she, I gave her, my warning about that, and she was not raised that way to do things, the wrong way just to make money and have a love of money and all that. And she understands. She's still my, my child, my offspring, but she's an adult, 40 years old. She makes up her own mind. I just give her my opinion. She agrees. She's not agreeing just because I'm her mother. She's agreeing. Okay. This is wrong. And she just doesn't know what to do about it because it's wrong. And that, they're not getting the bonuses. The other people are getting the bonuses. And how unfair that is. You see what I'm saying? And like I said, as time goes on, she told me that she was out looking for another job. And I said that's what I would do. But I have, and she knows it, I had, like that one job I mentioned, I just quit. I wasn't going to be a part of it. And I've done that to jobs that seemed kind of shady. And if they seemed anything like any of that, I wouldn't stick around. But I always had somebody to fall back on, was Adam, and vice versa. So, to put yourself in, this is my opinion. I'm not telling anybody what to do. Not offering any advice, suggestions, none of that. But if putting someone's self in danger, that could be on your permanent record. You could be fined and or imprisoned in some of these things. And no job is worth that I have ever heard of, none. And people there, they were doing it, and they feared nothing. Some of them were naive. They just thought, oh, well, we're not going to get caught. And if we do, like the job I had, they said they're the ones that are going to take the brunt. They're the ones that are going to take responsibility for it. That is so, you see what I'm saying? No. Such a lie as far as I knew back then. And plus things change as it is. But I've heard things like this more and more recent. I feel sorry for people who are going, if things continue down this road that we're seeing so much of, where everything is, people are becoming more and more and more taught to be very narcissistic, just to be very self-centered. It's all about me. I don't care about you kind of thing. No, it's just, and then you have people who are faking it. They the whole thing, fake it till you make it, and then they just are fakes. They never make it. They just fake it. They're fakes. They're liars. They're cheaters. They're doing stuff that's big possibility. It's illegal. Fraud. Legal. Lying about stuff. Like I've just talked so much about these people who lie about these grifters, these, the charlatans who say they know better than they act as though they can do counseling. All these years I've been on YouTube, plus the ones that every year they go around saying they don't have enough money for groceries. That's how they start off, and then they will grift over everything. Like I say, I would not even be shocked. I would not be shocked if they said they broke a fingernail and the catastrophe, and they don't have the money and they have to go get the fingernail fixed. They don't have enough money. Oh, woe is them. They're not going to be able to buy groceries because their fingernail broke. There's this thing called clippers. No, seriously. Oh, I don't have enough money for groceries, but I'm going to go have this spa treatment. I'm going to go on vacation because it's so stressful. But I don't have money for groceries. And I don't have money to pay for my medications. But I'm going to go on vacation because it was stressful. And yeah, my next video, I'm going to show you how much money is in my savings account. $1,000, $2,000. But I don't have enough money to buy my medication, to buy groceries. Oh, pay my rent, pay my electricity. It's going to be turned off. Oh, I'm telling you, I despise such people. The liars, these very deceptive people. Okay, and then you want to work with someone like that, and they're saying okay. They're saying this is okay as long as they make money. The boss is over there in another country. Not worried at all. The owner, not at all worried. There's so many scenarios where you can see that. And like some places, you hear like you work for them, and then anytime you need something from the corporate office, or maybe you don't even work for them, you buy something that requires you to call every once in a while their corporate office for help with this or help with that, whatever it is. Maybe you got a bill and it was wrong, whatever it was, and they're overseas. And I'm a social and behavioral scientist. I don't have problem with people with accents. They have problem with my accent, though. Texan accent. They have a problem with mine quite often. And I have been around a lot of people, a lot of accents. Adam is from a country across the globe, and I've spent most of my adulthood around people from different countries. So I don't have a problem with that at all. What I have a problem with is, and I'm having more and more and more of seeing this, is the company even in the United States? Do they go by the laws here? And when they're telling people to do things, or they don't even care if a person is doing something shady, just like that scenario. I'm fictionalizing these things. It's okay as long as you make money. And then some of them will say, we're not going to bail you out. You do what you want to do, but we're not going to bail you out. This kind of mentality. Okay. And you have to wonder, those that you actually calling a country, and they say, this is the thing. Say, what country are you in? Because you're just curious, because they won't give you any phone number for here in the United States. There's no phone number that you can call at all within the United States. It's all overseas. That's going, I mean, how many people aren't going to go, where is this country then? Okay. And they say, you call their number, they say, we're not going to tell you what country we're in for our safety. And I'm like, what the crap? Actually, I've heard that more than once. And I think some people can figure that one out. For your safety? What, you think I'm going to get an airplane and something? Go to some foreign country I know nothing about? Or somebody would. So that they're told that from the beginning to say, for our safety. Well, I think it's more than that. I don't think it's safety. Yeah. I think you know what I'm talking about. or at least have a hint. For me, it'd be a hint, because I really don't know what I'm talking about. I said that so many times already. But yeah, to me, that would be big, major red flags. All of it is, not B. I've actually had some of these things happen. Red flags. All of it. When they don't care how you make the money, as long as you make the money. Yeah, what's the breakdown here? Like I said, I feel sorry for if this continues for the generations that are alive, that are going to stay alive for a while, you know, overall. And the ones after that, if this continues, this is horrible. We don't care how you make the money. We don't care if you lie to the customers. We don't care how you know, how you present yourself. If you're a fraud, you know, a fake, and then you do things in a fraudulent way, as long as you're making money, you know, and if you get caught, that's on you. I don't even know if they can say that in the United States. It's on you. But, you know, I taught one of my classes that I taught, I don't know how many years. I don't know how much has changed. But it basically backed up stuff that I had been hearing my whole life, you know, from childhood, you know, about, you can't sue I would hear it in adults in my life from childhood. You can't sue them because they have all the money for the lawyers, and they're going to win no matter what. You know, I remember hearing that. Haven't we all? So, a lot of what those kinds of things were backed up by what I was teaching in a class, and it was not by me, it was by the textbook, and it wasn't my choice of a textbook. It's just the one they used. And for that class, and it was a known author. But so anyway, I mean, some of this stuff is just how it's turning. I mean, I am not new to this planet. Like I'm saying, I taught these a long time ago, 20 whatever years ago. And that class, I don't even know how long ago that one was. And that one stood out to me, really. At university, a well-known university. And, you know, just the thought of this is becoming the norm. They have normalized narcissism. They have normalized anything that, would even they get anything, even if the employees were caught doing these things, would it be more like a slap on the wrist? Just don't do it anymore. You'll go do a little bit of community service, but just don't do that again. And they had made buku-doodles of money, but that's okay. And the people who were actually doing the job right were never, you know, some of them were fired, some of them were let go because they weren't making enough money. They weren't, you know, getting any bonuses, so therefore they weren't doing the job like the other ones. They weren't working as hard when they were doing everything right. They were doing everything legally, and they got punished for it, and the people who were doing it illegally were rewarded for it. That kind of system is only going to fail eventually. Or will it? Has it become so normalized? Seriously, will it fail? Because it is existing. Anyway, wrapping it up.